Let me lead you to ashes.
Let's dance.
Evil conquering.
Nice.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. My name's Arkrevner and I like to play games, and today we're going to be talking about Xiao, some of his best supports, and some teams that you can build with Xiao as your main focus. As I mentioned in my last video, Xiao is an incredible DPS. However, more so than other 5-star characters, you actually do have to pay attention to how you build your team and have some proper supports in order to make him fully realize his true damage potential. As amazing as some of the damage numbers that you can get with Xiao are, if he dies mid-game, it's not worth anything. So I wanted to take some time to go in-depth about what are his best supports, why they are his best supports, and some possible options for good team synergy. We'll be starting with what I think are his best supports, and then moving down the list to supports that are pretty good or just okay. And then towards the end of the video, I've made some teams for you guys to check out. I basically wanted to switch and swap some of the teammates around so that you can see what kind of builds that you can make and see how flexible you can be while building a team for Xiao. In order of importance, I think that most important is keeping Xiao alive with a healer, then having a shield, and then amplifying his damage. As you can see, I'm currently showing Xiao's build in the background, so feel free to pause at any point. I'm currently using my best build for Xiao, but there are a lot of other options in terms of weapons that you could use. For example, the Black Cliff Pole is amazing, Star Glitter is actually pretty decent, and the Favonius Spear and the Royal Spear are also good options. I'm currently thinking about making a weapons comparison video for Xiao, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that. Also, before we go ahead and jump into the video, I just want to quickly say thank you guys so much. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is insane. I didn't think that we would hit it so soon, and I really appreciate it. So thank you to everyone that liked, commented, and subscribed on my past videos. Maybe with some luck and some teamwork, we can get this up to 2,000, or heaven forbid, 10,000. It really does mean a lot, and I'm excited to make some more videos for you guys in the future. Speaking of which, this video took a lot of time, energy, and resources in order to make, so if you do end up enjoying the video, please leave me a like and comment down below, and consider subscribing for more Genshin Impact content. Alright, now that we got all that out of the way, let's move on to who are Xiao's best support units. It should really be no surprise that we're starting off with Zhongli. He's definitely one of Xiao's best, if not his absolute best, supporting option. Although there are other great shielding characters, Zhongli just really takes the cake. Not only does Zhongli currently have the highest shield strength in the game, but because of his buffs from 1.3, he now also resists all elemental damage and physical damage. And if that wasn't reason enough, his shield now applies a 20% resistance debuff. So any character that you place under Zhongli's shield will now essentially be getting 20% more damage against all enemies. So essentially, even though Xiao will be playing with a very aggressive playstyle, Zhongli basically keeps him safe in any and all situations. You will still need a healer, but Zhongli will make it so that you don't have to rely on healing nearly as much. On top of all of this, Zhongli still provides excellent crowd control and can petrify enemies on the field using his burst. Overall, especially after Zhongli has gotten his 1.3 buffs, he's just an extremely viable character that is valuable on any team in any circumstance. Alright, and next up we have Venti. Venti is one of the best support characters in the game in general, and it's no different when he's paired with Xiao. Venti really serves two main purposes when on a Xiao team. One, he's able to gather up all of the enemies into one particular spot, which is extremely helpful with Xiao because then you can plunge attack and hit all enemies at the same time. This will only affect small enemies, but in places like domains as well as Spiral Abyss, this can be extremely helpful and make your runs go much faster and help you get more stars in the Abyss. His second main function is essentially being an Anemo battery for Xiao. Venti is built to be a great energy recharge character. It's built directly into his kit as a hidden stat, which makes him extremely valuable in terms of keeping Xiao's burst up at all times. I definitely recommend using him if you have him. Next up we have Qiqi. In my personal opinion, Qiqi is the single best healer in the game when we're strictly looking at healing. Everything in Qiqi's kit is designed to make sure that all of her teammates are constantly at full health, and considering that Xiao's burst constantly drains his health, this is extremely valuable. By using her skill, you can heal your entire team by auto-attacking with her on the field, or you can opt to switch to whatever character needs healing, and the Herald of Frost will constantly keep ticking and giving you health as you go. Her burst also applies a talisman which has some of the highest healing potential in the game. When you hit an enemy with a talisman, you can essentially go from no health all the way to full health in a matter of seconds. I find this extremely valuable while playing a character like Xiao because it allows you to be extremely aggressive with your playstyle while knowing that if things go wrong, you can go back up to full health in a matter of seconds. Essentially, her being such a good support allows you to be more aggressive with Xiao. Qiqi often gets a bad rap for being the worst 5-star character in the game, but I couldn't disagree more. In terms of survivability, she will just constantly keep you safe. You don't have to use her if you don't want her. There are a lot of healers in the game, but I do highly recommend her. Next up we have Jean, who is without a doubt one of the best supports that you could possibly have for Xiao. Not only is she a great healer, but she also provides a lot of utility by providing a lot of crowd control, by grouping up enemies and tossing them basically wherever you need them to. On top of this, since she is a Nemo, she can also serve as a battery, and just support Xiao in any way that you need her to. Even though she may not be able to provide as much healing as Qiqi, I feel as though she provides so much more utility that it really makes her worthwhile. And it's also much easier to build Jean to be a DPS support, since her base attack is a lot higher. Essentially, Jean is a jack of all trades, and even though she may not be a complete master of any, she's still very good in all aspects of her kit and provides valuable support to not only Xiao but everyone on her team. So essentially, just by having Jean on your team, you have an excellent healer, you have a sub DPS, you have a crowd controller, and an Anemo battery. And since she fills so many roles, that means that you are a lot more flexible to bring whoever else that you want on your team because she just provides more flexibility. So essentially, don't sleep on Jean if you have her because she's a lot more valuable than you might think. Alright, surprise surprise, guess who's the very first 4-star on this list? Of course it's Bennett. Bennett is without a doubt one of the best 4-star characters in the game because not only can he provide insane amounts of damage, but he's also a decent healer. Although I wouldn't say he's the best healer considering that he can only get you up to about 70% health, it's usually enough to keep you alive and it's bursty enough that it heals you up very quickly while you have a team member out on the field. I slept on Bennett for a long time because I always thought that he wouldn't be able to keep me healthy enough in any situation considering that it's only up to 70%, and I'm a pretty cautious and more defensive player in general. However, as I've started to build him, I realized that since he does heal so quickly, it's kind of worth it because the damage boost is very significant. It's based on his base attack, so that essentially means that the higher that you have his level, as well as the higher that you have his weapon, will directly contribute to how much damage that he'll be able to contribute to the team when they're inside of his burst. If for any reason you feel like you're not getting enough damage, make sure to put Bennett on your team and that'll take care of the problem. On top of that, you can also pair him with another Pyro character on the team to get the extra 25% attack boost. So essentially, even though he's dorky and he may not be for everyone, Bennett is an amazing support character and will add to your overall DPS with Xiao. Next up we have Albedo, who was a character that I actually was teetering back and forth between S and A tier, but ultimately decided that he was an S tier character. Although he may not be able to heal or provide extremely reliable shields like some of the other characters mentioned in the S tier, I do feel as though he provides so much support and sub DPS while off the field that he's extremely useful for playing with Xiao. Since Xiao wants to be on the field all the time, Albedo is actually extremely valuable because he can provide most of his damage from off the field. On top of this, his skill lasts for a whopping 30 seconds, can be activated every 2 seconds, and provides energy every time you hit. On top of this, if you do have other elements in your team, you can provide crystallized shields for your teammates and provide a little bit more defense. Also, if you're one of the very few people that has a C4 Albedo, he's probably Xiao's best support because he applies a 30% damage boost to plunging damage. At the end of the day, Albedo is a phenomenal character that fits just about anywhere you put him, and will definitely increase your damage output. Last but certainly not least, we have Diona, who is definitely one of Xiao's best supports. Not only can she protect Xiao by using her skill, but she can also heal him using her burst. Essentially, she's able to take up not one, but two of the supporting roles for Xiao in one character. Thus, when you're actually building your team, you can be a lot more flexible with who you bring on because you know that Diona will take both the place of a shielding character and a healing character. Diona is also extremely valuable because, as of recording, Spiral Abyss floors 9 and 10 both have cryo enemies, and by having a cryo shield, it'll definitely help you pass those two levels. Also, she's currently on rate up during Xiao's banner, so you're more likely to have her than any of the other characters listed prior. In fact, depending on how many times you had to pull for Xiao, you may even have multiple constellations for her. On top of this, Diona is one of the few characters that primarily focuses on HP stats, meaning that any of those HP stat artifacts that you've gotten in the past that seemed useless might be very useful for her. In fact, she's one of the only characters that I could recommend going all HP if you want to maximize her shield and her healing potential. You'll lose out on a lot of damage, but it means that you won't be taking much damage and you'll be able to fully heal whenever you do. Starting off in the A tier, we have Sucrose. Sucrose is actually an amazing Anemo support. The only reason why she's not an S tier support is because she mainly focuses on elemental mastery, and while that is very good for most teams, Xiao isn't really focused on elemental mastery and mainly wants to focus on energy recharge, so she loses out to Venti in this case. However, Sucrose is still extremely valuable, and if you don't have Venti, you should definitely consider using her. If you happen to have more than one constellation, you can actually use her elemental skill twice, which at the end of the day will increase your damage output and increase your energy for Xiao. And if you pair this with sacrificial fragments, you can actually get up to 3 charges within a very short period of time. On top of that, she's one of the best crowd controllers in the game, and will allow you to group up enemies so that you can take advantage of Xiao's plunge. Next up, we have everyone's favorite Hydro support, Xingqiu. Xingqiu is one of the best DPS supports in the entire game, and he actually has very good synergy with Xiao, and just about any team that you build with Xiao. Xingqiu is so valuable because not only can he provide excellent DPS while off the field by using his burst, but by using his skill he actually also gives you damage reduction and healing. Although it might not be enough healing to substitute for a healer, it's still a nice backup. Xingqiu also helps boost your DPS when Xiao is off of his burst, because you can use the ranged swords in order to amplify your damage. He's also one of the only characters that applies his element regularly enough and quickly enough that Xiao can properly take advantage of Swirl. It may not be very big numbers on the screen, but it will add to your overall DPS. And like I said, even though his heals may not be monumental, his skill can actually be the difference between whether you do get KO'd or not KO'd, and keep you hanging on with a slither of health. Next up we have Barbara. Besides the healers that I previously mentioned, I think that Barbara is probably your next best option. Not only does she have a ridiculously high amount of healing potential, both her skill and her burst are completely centered around healing. She is essentially designed to be a designated healer. Ultimately, she's extremely valuable to Xiao because she is one of the few units that can constantly keep up a barrier around Xiao that will keep him healing regularly. Her burst can also heal your entire team, so if you're running low on health and you're in a sticky situation, Barbara's there to help you. On top of all of that, if you do happen to get her to C6, she has a built-in revive function that can bring back one character to full health if they perish in battle. Essentially, this is a big get-out-of-jail-free card if you're struggling with higher level difficulty content, and since she is a 4-star and MiHoYo seems to be giving us her pretty regularly, you might actually be able to get her up to C6 with enough time. However, Barbara does have one major flaw. Although she is good in the grand majority of content, whenever you're fighting cryo enemies, you tend to get frozen a lot more easily since she applies wet to whatever character is protected by her veil. this can often be very counterproductive considering that Xiao is a main DPS that primarily focuses on getting very close to your enemies in order to deal damage. Alright, next up we have the B tier characters. These characters are still extremely good with Xiao, however they are a lot more situational. Starting off the list we have Beidou, who is also one of the rate up characters on Xiao's banner, making her a lot easier to obtain currently. Beidou is an excellent DPS unit or sub DPS unit, and she actually pairs fairly well with Xiao. This is mainly because you can pop her in, use her burst to create a shield that provides constant electro damage, and also when you're using her skill, you're able to counter big hits that you may not want to take with Xiao. Essentially, she's going to give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you want to handle your enemies, and whether you want to counter, or whether you want to go in for the attack with Xiao. It's always nice having a second line of defense, and Beidou does this very well while also dealing a lot of damage if you can properly time her skill. I personally think that on a Xiao team she's best suited for being paired with Hydro so that you can get overcharge, or with a Cryo member so that you can apply Superconduct so that when Xiao is off of his burst he can do a lot more physical damage. Overall, Beidou is just a really solid character, and I think that some people might overlook her, so I decided to talk about her real quick. Next we have Xinyan, who is the last and final character that's currently on rate up with Xiao's banner. Can you tell that MiHoYo really wants us to use a shield character with Xiao? Well, they do. And Xinyan's actually a pretty decent option in terms of shields. Although her shield isn't nearly as strong as say Diona's or Zhongli's, I still think that she's still very valuable and provides pretty excellent support in regards to physical damage as a sub DPS. On top of this, she's actually very good at breaking ice and water shields, which can be very valuable when you only have Xiao as your main DPS. Ultimately, if you do want to have her as a support on a Xiao team, I think that you need to focus both on her attack and her defense to make sure that her attacks are hitting hard and her defense is good enough so that her shields can be protecting your team. Ultimately, if you build Xinyan properly, she can be a great asset to just about any team and improve your overall damage. Right, and lastly we have Noelle. To be honest, I was considering not including Noelle at all, because I don't think that she's the best healer for Xiao. However, her being both a shielding character and a healing character lands her a spot on this list. I'm not saying that Noelle is a bad character in any way, I just think that she's a lot better suited for other teams, and being a main DPS herself if you have her at C6. The main reason why I would value other healers over Noelle is because she is only able to heal her team while she's out on the field herself, and since Xiao wants to be on the field the grand majority of the time, this kinda conflicts a little. However, her shield is very strong, and if you build her with a lot of defense, like you should, it means that you're not going to be taking nearly as many hits with Xiao, and you can always pair Noelle with another healer such as Diona or Barbara in order to make sure that you are getting enough heals. Or if you're one of the few that really liked Noelle and have built her completely, have her C6, then you can always use her as a sub DPS for Xiao and swap in whenever he's not on his burst. Alright, and for the remainder of the video, I just want to show you guys a few of the builds that I put together. Some of them are going to be all 5 stars, some of them are going to be Xiao with all 4-star supports, some of them are going to be a hybrid mix between the two. I basically just wanted to show you guys a bunch of different options so that you can pick something that might work best for you. Also keep in mind that none of these are locked in place and you can mix and match characters wherever you need to in order to make it best for you and your account. For example, with this build, you could easily take out Venti and Qiqi and replace them with Sucrose and Diona. You may not be able to clear things nearly as fast as with these characters, but it will be pretty comparable and you will be able to still deal a lot of damage. As I mentioned right at the beginning of this video, the primary thing that you want for your supports for Xiao is to be able to heal him, protect him, and amplify his damage. So whether that be by giving him a shield so that he doesn't take as much damage, having a character that both provides shields and heals in order to make sure that you have room for more damage characters on your team as sub DPSs, or by providing as much Anemo energy as possible in order to keep Xiao's burst up. At the end of the day, I basically wanted to show that there are a lot of options in terms of building a team and a lot of different ways that you can go about building a team. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to show every single version of this, and you can swap characters around as need be in order to make things best for you. When building a team for Xiao, make sure that you are constantly thinking about team resonance, so you can be looking at things such as a double fire comp in order to raise your overall attack, a double hydro comp in order to maximize your healing. Xiao also does exceptionally well on freeze comps if you do have a cryo and hydro member in order to keep them in place and then deal massive amounts of damage to them. And I honestly think that a lot of people are sleeping on a double geo comp so that you can have stronger shield and more damage. It really just depends on how you want to play and what best suits your playstyle. I had a lot of comments in my last video saying that they were really worried that they picked up Xiao and that they might not be able to use them because they were scared that they were going to constantly die because they didn't feel like they were skilled enough, or they were so new to the game that they didn't have the resources to properly invest into him and his team. But I basically just want to let you guys know that no matter what your skill level is, if you do take enough time, it will work out and you will have a very powerful character at your disposal to take on just about any content in the game, including Spiral Abyss. For my more skilled players, I hope that this will just help you maximize your damage, and for newer players and players that are a little less skilled, I hope that this gives you the confidence in order to build a team with Xiao. Don't let anyone say that you're not good enough to play this game just because you don't have a high skill level in terms of combat. I saw a lot of those messages on my last video saying just get good, and that advice is honestly useless. So I spent the past few days making this in order to help people that are struggling a little bit. I don't really struggle with endgame content anymore since I have such stacked characters, but I understand that this can still be hard for new players and people that just aren't that skilled at video games, and I just want to let you know that this is going to be an all-inclusive channel. I really hate the elitist attitude that a lot of gamers have, and I just want to let you know that that's just not going to be on this account. This game isn't even player versus player, so we might as well just be helping each other out and lifting each other up so we can all strive in the endgame. Alright guys, I'm gonna let this video play out. If you enjoyed it or learned anything from it, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. If you have a different build that I did not include in this video, please let me know. I'm very curious to see what other people are doing in this game. And if you've made it this far, consider subscribing. I've been trying to make Genshin Impact content pretty regularly, and although I can't make content as much as I would like to, I try to make it high quality for you guys. Thanks for all the love and support on my last video, and thanks so much for over 1,000 subscribers, I really appreciate it. Alright guys, that's all for now. Best wishes. Bye.
Everybody stand back!
Useless. Boring. Burst forth.
Another test.
Disappear. Here.
Taste.
Worthless. Useless.
Has a good night shoes.
Look at me. Just
Burst forth. Feel this ancient power. Lament. Boring. Useless.
Picked